If Britain judged that hosting the president for a second state visit a few months ago would win over Donald Trump and spare the UK the disdain of the administration, well, Downing Street will tonight be having second thoughts.
And I think it's horrible what's happening to Europe.
In a startling new interview, the president has accused Europe as a whole, and by implication Britain, of weakness in the face of illegal migration.
But most European nations, they're decaying. They're decaying. No, they should be freaked out by what they're doing to their countries. They're destroying their countries.
Well, European Council
President...
And
they're people I like. Look, they're people I like. I get along with them. You know that. But they can't let this happen. And it gets to a point where you can't really correct it. I think they're weak. But I also think that they want to be so politically correct. I think they don't know what to do. Europe doesn't know what to do.
He also launched an astonishing new attack on London and Sadiq Khan.
He's a horrible mayor. He's an incompetent mayor, but he's a horrible, vicious, disgusting mayor. I think he's done a terrible job. London's a different place. I love London. I love London. And I hate to see it happen.
The Foreign Secretary pushed back at that particular presidential diatribe.
Obviously, when it comes to the Mayor of London, you would not be surprised to know I, of course, take a strongly different view, and I think the Mayor is doing an excellent job for the people of London.
Thank you very much for being here.
And his words on Ukraine and on President Zelenskyy, with whom he's had a combustible relationship, will be of grave concern to European governments.
He's going to have to get on the ball and start accepting things. You know, when you're losing, because you're losing. I know the good leaders, I know the bad leaders, I know the smart ones, I know the stupid ones. You got some real stupid ones too. But they're not doing a good job. Europe is not doing a good job in many ways. They're not doing a good job.
I want to ask
you
about
They talk too much, and they're not producing. We're talking about Ukraine. They talk, but they don't produce. And the war just keeps going on and on. I mean, 4 years now it's been going on, long before I got here. This is not my war. This is Joe Biden's war.
It's Team Europe and Team United States.
And yet one European leader known to have close links to Trump suggested today a ceasefire in Ukraine is now within reach.
To answer directly the question, where are we today? I think we are closer to a peace agreement than we have been at any time since the war began.
Trump's critique of Europe will hit home and hard, partly because on the issue of defence there is an element of truth in his assessment, and partly because it's now clear the Transatlantic alliance is in severe jeopardy, with the White House openly deriding its allies as enfeebled and indecisive.
Well, Robert will assess for us what Mr. Trump is up to in a moment. But first, let's get some European reaction from James, who's in Poland, in Rzeszów. James, listen, I mean, Donald Trump, as Robert was saying, does have a point when he talks about European spending. There'll be plenty of people who agree with what he has to say about illegal immigration, but he can't really seem to stop slagging Europe off. How has it gone down tonight?
Well, I mean, we have been here before, of course, but by any standards, this is bad. And I think it'll be worrying European leaders, particularly over what he said about Ukraine. I mean, today is the day when President Zelenskyy has been putting together his own counter-peace proposal backed by Europe to offer that to Washington. Not much hope on those words of it getting very far. And this does seem to be one of the things that is really irritating Donald Trump, is that the Europeans keep sort of stiffening Zelenskyy's backbone and backing him and saying, you don't have to agree to whatever Washington says, and thus, in Trump's view, denying him this historic peacemaking opportunity. I mean, there are other European leaders who see themselves as, I'm thinking of Starmer and President Macron of France, see themselves as sort of Trump whisperers who can keep him on side, and indeed Downing Street wouldn't criticise at all any of this today. But Germany's Chancellor Merz has been much stronger. I mean, he said, look, directly to Donald Trump, America first is one thing. America alone can't be in your interests. You need partners. And if you think you need to save European democracy, don't worry. If it needs saving, we'll save it. I mean, he's the only one who has spoken out. But in many ways, this Western alliance, as you described it, I mean, it's still there on paper, obviously. But is it functioning? Not really.
OK, James, thank you very much indeed. Well, Robert, I mean, I assume I know the answer to this, but is there any regret from the White House tonight, or is it all a very deliberate strategy from the president?
Well, as you know, Tom, this president, this White House doesn't do regret and it doesn't do remorse. And in terms of this interview with Politico, it's quite the opposite. I mean, they're proud of it. This White House is pumping it out, pushing it out on the White House social media platforms. They feel this interview was blunt but told some basic truths. And it's also probably not the end, but just the beginning. Trump doesn't rule out getting involved and engaged in European upcoming elections, perhaps endorsing candidates on the right who share his stance on immigration. And remember, Tom, this doesn't come in isolation either. On Friday, the White House published its national security strategy. That's its kind of overarching foreign policy ambition and justification. And look, if it didn't express contempt for Europe, it certainly did express a disdain. For example, it described Europe as in almost terminal economic decline. It used some pretty apocalyptic and bleak language like civilizational erasure facing Europe. And the problem for Europe is there is no easy solution. They can't sort of circle the wagons and wait out this Trump administration. After all, Tom, we haven't reached yet the end of year one of this second Trump term.
OK, Robert, thank you very much indeed. Well, among the casualties in Ukraine today was a member of the British Armed Forces. He was away from the front line observing Ukrainian forces as they were testing new defensive equipment. There was an accident. He hasn't been named, but his family has been told.